Welcome to Psychology the Daf. We are in Gemara Pesachim on Daf Pei Tes. And today we're going to talk about how to motivate children. Are prizes a good method to motivate children? In other words, what is superior? Intrinsic motivation, that is, finding what a person is naturally drawn toward and amplifying it, or is extrinsic motivation more powerful, such as financial incentives? Now, the Mishnah Omar Aleph and the Gemara relate a story about a man who wanted to motivate his children to be zealous in their performance of the Pesach mitzvah. He offered the sacrifice to the first son who made it to Yerushalayim. The Gemara points out that actually all the children were able to partake and participate in the sacrifice, as he had them all in mind. He just stated it that way to make kind of a mock contest in order to motivate them. The Gemara also quotes a brisa that says that the daughters even beat the sons in the race, showing that the sons were somewhat lazy. This brings me to a discussion about modern chinuch. My father, Zecher Tzadat Gavrocha, who was a mechanech for over 60 years, despised motivating children with prizes. He felt that it deprived them of the ability to learn how to love learning for its own pleasures, which are intrinsic. He would argue, do you know how hard it is to learn how to walk or talk? Yet, we never find a lazy baby. Learning is instinctive, and it is naturally pleasurable to successfully meet challenges and learn something new. How do we educators manage to ruin learning so badly that most children hate school? While it is true, the Rambam in his commentary on Mishnah, introduction to the 10th chapter of Sanhedrin, offers a standard model of chinuch for children with many material prizes until they reach an age where they can comprehend the intrinsic value of what they are learning. My father saw that Rambam as a b'diavad and way overvalued as a primary form of chinuch. Now, if I may, I would like to be miyashav a stira between my father's derech and the Rambam. We know there are numerous studies, which you can find on my blog, that are quoted in this section, that show that creative work is actually stifled by extrinsic motivators. Yet boring drudge work requires extrinsic motivation. Thus, a data entry clerk may do better with a financial bonus for efficiency and productivity, but an entrepreneur might be motivated by his or her passion much more than financial success, though he or she may become wealthy regardless. The psychology behind this is obvious. Pressure to perform ruins creativity because creativity requires emotional and intellectual risk-taking, while boring stuff requires immediate payoff, such as finances. This brings me back to chinuch. If a child must do rote material learning, then intrinsic motivations are helpful. For example, memorizing multiplication tables, working on Kriya, or perhaps even the early stages of Gemara learning where the technical syntax makes it hard to enjoy the actual legal or Aggadic treasures that are in the Gemara. Even in the case of our Gemara, the motivator was not enough to get those lazy sons going. Their sisters beat them in the race. Despite them, no doubt, being physically weaker and less accustomed to the rigors of travel, yet the sisters beat them in the race. Of course, that's assuming they weren't trans athletes, but I suppose that's a different topic. Okay, anyway, let me conclude with a wonderful story from my father, Zichron Livrocha. In his school, there was a troublemaking child who was constantly thrown out of class and sent to the principal's office, which of course my father despised as well. But my father, the principal at the time, thought that a suitable punishment, so to speak, might be to offer to learn Malbim with the boy. You see, my father loved the Malbim's creativity and his attention to words, and he thought the boy might enjoy it as well. Years later, my father met the fellow who was a successful physician, and this person told my father, you know, I learned for Smicha, and I am also a doctor. Every book and sefer that I was forced to study has now grown dust. As soon as I graduated or passed the exams, I closed the book or sefer and never opened it again. However, to this day, I still love to learn Malbim. I rest my case.